Hey, everybody. Name's John Childress. Really looking forward to being with you today and with BarTrack. We're going to be going over brewing up your profits and mastering draft beer efficiency. Quickly, just wanted to thank Andrew again for putting this on. It takes a tremendous amount of time and effort and organization, which is something that I always seem to be lacking in. But Andrew, yeah, thank you again for putting this on. Great to see everybody and present, learn something new every time these happen. So appreciate everything that you do for not only the community but the industry and bringing everybody together. So thank you. Like I said, today we're going to be talking about draft beer efficiency. Quickly, I have an agenda just to go over a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today. So we're going to be talking about challenges that are facing the craft industry right now. We're going to explain draft efficiency and kind of go over what that entails. And then we're going to be getting into tracking beer sold and tracking beer that's wasted, something that seems, very easy to think about, but very hard to actually do and understand. It's pretty easy to track beer sold. We're constantly looking at those numbers, but understanding what is lost and how that can impact your business is really important. We're also going to be talking about the benefits of maximizing draft efficiency. So understanding where that loss is occurring, and then maybe making some necessary adjustments to increase your bottom line. Some of the factors that impact draft efficiency, and then strategies for maximum draft efficiency, a little bit about BarTrack, and then, of course, we'll take some questions. So the first thing, just wanted to introduce myself because I know we're all in front of screens so much these days. Just want to add a little human and dog element to this. So I'm currently the director of brewery partnerships at BarTrack. I live outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in a little town called Woodstock. And I also manage the Southeast Territory, so North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. I do a lot of travel for work and festivals and events, so hopefully I'll see you all, or a majority of you, at CBC next month. It's coming quick. I can't believe it's only a short few weeks away. I've been in the craft technology space for about 4 years now. So what that means, I've worked for various different startups that focused on direct-to-consumer sales, that focused on brewery system management, all the way to some digital media marketing and events. But I've been to a lot of breweries from California to Miami to New York. And everywhere in between. I've talked to a ton of different brewers, a lot of different people in the space, and I just absolutely love the industry. And I really think this is a time for the intersection of technology and beer. And I think there are just so many innovative tools out there right now that are helpful to brewers because similar to the dog that you see on the left, there are a lot of hats to be worn. And it's very difficult to be a business owner, manager, facilitator, a safety person without some of these tools. So we're here to make your life easier and to, again, listen to all the wants and needs of the people of the industry and hopefully make it a more inviting place for everybody. So I live in Atlanta, like I said, and a place that I hold dear to my heart is a favorite beer bar. I just want to add a little bit about me. Is Brickstore Pub. Love everything they do there. And finally, I do have a dog named Luca. She is a Vizsla, and that is what she kind of looks like there to the left. So just to add a little human touch to this before diving into, efficiency and draft beer. So currently, I would say these are just things I think that we like to think about. There are things that are outside of our control as business owners and people in the brewing space. So there's obviously an increase in competition. It seems like every other day there's a brewery opening up down the street. So that means it's the competition's just becoming more intense. It makes it harder for new breweries to stand out and to gain market share. There's rising costs. So ingredients, equipment, labor, all of these things are going up. So definitely a challenge. There's always just seems to be a change in consumer preferences, whether it's non-alcoholic beers or the seltzer craze or low ABV beers or hazy IPAs. There's a constant change in consumer preferences. There's also distribution challenges. So as craft breweries expand, they're trying to get into new markets possibly. Finding and retaining distributors is certainly a challenge. Securing shelf space and getting into different stores, restaurants. There's regulatory hurdles. It seems to change every state we go into. I've been to a lot of guild events at different states these past couple of weeks. And, all the conversations that are being had with lawmakers and everyone in between. There's certainly lots of steps moving in the right direction, but certainly a ways to go. So different regulatory hurdles. And then, of course, the Fed needs no explanation. There's just there's inflation, there's rising rent costs, there's all different types of things that I'd say are currently facing the craft brewing industry. So what I say are some of these challenges are just they're tough to control. They're going to happen. They're going to change. And that's one thing that it makes it tough for us if we're trying to understand the industry and what we can control. Some of these things are just outside of that. So we like to talk about the things that we can control, which is draft efficiency. So one thing about draft efficiency is, I just have an explanation here, which is the brewery's ability to maximize the amount of beer sold while minimizing waste. So pretty self-explanatory, but it can be done in different ways, right? So how are you managing your equipment? How are you keeping it clean? Are you sanitizing it? Have you trained your staff in how to manage some of this equipment? There's inventory management, right? Expired beer, the way you move stuff around your cooler, the way the stuff's going out into distribution, and of course marketing. But it is certainly crucial to a brewery's profitability and the overall customer experience. So there's a few different ways to even measure draft efficiency. So one of those being pour costs. I'd imagine a lot of people have some idea of what pour costs they are running, what that percentage might be, but it can be a bit tricky to actually understand what is being sold. And then, with COGS and everything included, what does this mean? So pour cost quickly is just like the cost of the beer served divided by the revenue generated from that beer. So a lower pour cost would indicate a higher draft beer efficiency. So this means that the brewery is spending less time or spending less money to produce the beer and selling it for more. There's also a waste percentage involved, which is essentially the percentage of beer that is wasted due to overpouring, spillage, other factors, and a lower waste percentage obviously would also indicate a higher draft beer percentage. And something that I'd imagine pretty much everybody is tracking, of course, is sales volume. So how much beer is being sold over a specific period of time, a day, a week, or month. And obviously higher beer sales typically equate to higher draft beer efficiency because the brewery is selling through more beer. So one of the toughest things to do is tracking beer sold versus tracking beer wasted. So out of all the beer that's coming out of your draft lines, it would be great if we sold 100% of it, right? That unfortunately is not the case. And I'm sure many of you can nod your head. We all know that there is waste occurring, right? But where is it going? Who's doing it? How is it occurring? That's something that's a little bit trickier and very tough to actually pinpoint because there are so many different factors and variables that go into this. So why is this essential though? And how can you track it? Beer waste is essential, or tracking beer waste is essential for a variety of reasons. One, it can help you identify inefficiencies. So if you're thinking about tracking the amount of beer wasted, you can identify inefficiencies that may include possibly training staff, getting them up to speed. It has to do with equipment calibration or adjusting inventory management practices. Just identifying certain inefficiencies within your day-to-day business can certainly help. What else? Beer waste tracking is essential for obviously reducing waste. So when a brewery is tracking beer wasted, you can take the steps to reduce this waste, implementing more effective inventory management or investing in different types of equipment, whether it's tracking equipment, different analytics. If you're able to track beer that's coming through your system, map it back to sales, that's certainly very important. And then lastly, one of the biggest things I think for breweries is, of course, the quality. So you want to make sure that what you are brewing is, and what the customer is experiencing and drinking is the way that you intended it to taste. So making sure that the pressures are right, the temperature of the beer is right. Those are the two major ones, right? When that beer comes out of the faucet, you want to ensure that the customer is having a great experience so that they come back for more, they order another pint, they bring their friends, they bring their dogs, what have you. But we want to make sure that when you're tracking beer sold and tracking beer waste, this is certainly going to help you begin to understand all of these things here to the left. So what are some of the factors that impact draft efficiencies and inefficiencies? So I'm sure as you look through this numbered list, you recognize a lot of these, the overpouring, the spillage, expired beer. These are some of the major issues, right? So what is overpouring? It's quite self-explanatory. It's when, let's say you're ringing up a button on your POS for a pint, 16 ounces is supposed to come out of that beer or come out of that draft line but let's say 30 ounces came out. When that beer finally kicks and someone says, hey, we only sold this X amount of beer, but this keg should have been sold for this much, where did all that beer go? Overpouring is certainly one of the biggest factors that impacts draft efficiency. The other is spillage. So again, self-explanatory for this one, improper pouring techniques. You can see foam coming out. There's, just beer being wasted coming right out of the draft. Expired beer needs no explanation. Inefficient inventory management. So, whether it's overstocking or understocking, this can result in beer wasted, which ultimately leads to missed sales opportunities. The other one is equipment issues. So poorly calibrated taps. This is a big one. Pressure. We see a lot of breweries that really let's just say the staff, they go back and they start touching things, when they shouldn't. Let's say the beer's trying to settle, whatever it might be. There could be calibration issues. They could be faulty kegs, meaning like this beer is supposed to be 10 degrees cooler than what it's supposed to be. It's causing foam, and that is causing inefficient draft beer being poured. Nextly, temperature and pressure. These are probably the two main culprits. Of course, beer served at incorrect temperatures or pressures can result in either overfoaming. It can also result in flat beer, and you want a consistent pour every single day. If I'm a consumer and I go and I get your lager, on Monday, and it tastes different than when I got it on Thursday, I'm going to ask myself a few questions. So temperature and pressure, absolutely massive in this industry. And then lastly, of course, it could be a theft issue. So no secret there. Just beer that is being served out and not rung up. So the next thing we'd like to cover is so how are we going to start managing waste? So after some of the factors that we saw that impact draft efficiency, what can we do to manage this waste? So first one, of course, is staff training. I was at a few breweries down in Tampa a couple of weeks ago, and the staff prides themselves in being what they consider maybe the most educated servers or taproom managers in the city. And it's very difficult to get a job there. You have to know the inside of the systems inside out. You have to know the insides and outs of every single beer that's being created and poured. But ultimately, this leads to a more efficient system overall. So there's less issues in the tap room. They seem to be extremely efficient with the beer being poured. They want to ensure that everything that is coming out of the draft system is exactly the way it should taste because of how much work went into the beer. So properly trained staff, whether it's obviously understanding the beer itself, pouring techniques, equipment maintenance, inventory management, all of these things are obviously going to help increase the efficiency of the entire system. So the next one is equipment maintenance. No secret there. So regularly clean, calibrate, maintain tap lines, faucets, other equipment to ensure proper pouring and reduce waste to equipment issues. So obviously, the more you're checking on these things, the more regular the line cleanings, which in the brewing space is an extreme focus, I'm sure of, outside of, I know we talk with some bars and restaurants, but from a brewery standpoint, is something that a lot of our friends, customers, prospects, everyone is constantly focused on equipment maintenance and line cleanings and regular line cleanings. So next thing, inventory management systems. So whether you're using a brewery system management software, which I'm sure a majority of you are, or you're utilizing a point of sale mixed with something like BarTrack or mixed with your brewery system management software, proper inventory management is absolutely huge. Just because of you want to monitor expiration dates, you want to rotate stock, you want to move, have like the first in, first out system to prevent anything to be spoiled whatsoever. So that's very, very important. The next thing, which is something we hold near and dear to our hearts, is tracking and analyzing data. So using data tracking analytic tools to monitor pour volumes, sales, waste percentages, just so you're able to identify areas of improvement to become more efficient. So we like to say one of the toughest things to track, again, is wasted beer. We all know it happens. We might be able to put a percentage on it, but are we able to actually say indefinitely that 20% of our loss is going to all over pours or all because of foaming issues or to unrung beers? Pinpointing exactly where that's coming from, I think, is what separates, and a very impactful bottom line to something that just seems to be missing some numbers. And finally, with like more tracking and data analytics, I think that brewers would ultimately be able to nail an optimal price point as well. With price points going up, it's not unheard of to go into tap rooms anymore and see pints that are from $7 up to $11. And then I even go to beer bars where a pint on the low end starts at $9, $10. One way to help combat these rising costs that you need to pass on to the consumer is by making your system more efficient. So if you want to have a competitive advantage possibly in your market, obviously price is a major factor right now for just about everybody, for the end consumer, for the growers, for the manufacturers, and of course the brewers themselves. One way to hopefully combat some of these raised prices is by making your draft system as efficient as possible. If you can keep things really lean, knowing that you're pouring at 95% keg efficiencies, you might be able to keep prices a little bit lower than, say, your competitors that are in the town over or down the street. So optimizing pricing is something that I think is absolutely massive during this time. And then obviously improving the customer experience. So having a great atmosphere, trained staff, the beers are pouring consistently and the way that you intended. All of this is going to encourage repeat business, in turn, making your business more efficient and profitable over time. So I'm going to hustle up a little bit. I'm doing a lot of talking. So, benefits of maximizing draft efficiency in your overall system. Less waste is obviously equal to more money, happier customers. You have a more sustainable approach because you're using less ingredients, less water, and providing a more efficient outcome. So there's better safety and hygiene practices because there's fewer beer beer spills, possibly different, less contamination risks. You have a happier staff, of course. Their customers are happy. Usually they're tipping better. Staff's happy. They're working in an environment they absolutely love. Easier inventory management and ordering, reducing wait times for customers is always massive. Increased sales is a quicker service, and fresher beer enhance the customer drinking experience. No secret there. And a better use of valuable space. I really dislike going into a space where I feel almost cluttered. There's kegs everywhere. There's cans everywhere. There's cases everywhere. The experience of me walking into a tap room or a brewery that is very clean and not cluttered is very welcoming to me, because my house is not like that. So I can escape not only to go drink beer, but I can also escape to a place that's nice and clean. I will stay longer, that is for sure, and I will buy more beer. So the last thing, of course, is talking a little bit about BarTrack. If you don't know about BarTrack, and you want to know more about draft inefficiencies, down to essentially the dollar an ounce, this is a system that I think a lot of breweries could be very much interested in. So understanding exactly where beer is going, not only do we integrate and partner with a variety of different point of sale systems, you are now able to track sales and also beer wasted. So if you want to see the temperatures and pressures of every single draft line, if you want to see your keg levels that are on draft in real time, if you want to have detailed reports on pour costs and percentages and dollar amounts that are associated with loss due to unrung beer, comped beer, over pours, under pours, this is actually a technology that I think will provide a ton of value to breweries that maybe have been just too busy to track a ton of different numbers, or they invested a lot of time into this, but then got pulled in another direction, and now numbers are kind of all over the place. I think this is, I've seen it kind of work, and I have a lot of discussion with breweries that now that they've been able to get these reports, they can make decisions a lot quicker. They're seeing beer move differently. They're getting consistent pours every single time. And I think overall, they feel like this is almost I don't want to call it a security system for their beer and their draft lines, but they have the ability now to almost troubleshoot all different types of issues that could arise, whether, they think that there's unrung beers being served out, but they can't pinpoint it, or they think they're having or there are foaming issues and they're not brought to that issue until, a half a day later or 2 days later after the keg kicks, or there are, whatever it might be, they're pouring a beer into the wrong size glass, which is something that we've seen actually a lot of imperial stouts going into pint glasses, which is, great for the customer, but that's in a very expensive pour. And if it's going into a 16-ounce pint glass instead of an 8 or a 10-ounce pint glass, then there's a lot of money that is just kind of at least it's going into someone's ingesting it, and it's not wasted per se, but there's a lot of money that is left on the table there. So obviously, tracking your cost of goods sold, efficiency reports, real-time pour costs, and keg level tracking. If that's something that you think would benefit your brewery, would love to have a conversation about that in the future. I think it's something, again, that that a lot of brewers are trying to constantly understand. They want to understand where these inefficiencies are taking place. They want to increase their keg yields. They want to go from 80% keg efficiency to 95%. And over time, those numbers certainly do add up. So usually what we see is an increase in keg efficiencies between 10 and 15% over time. And we'd love to have an opportunity to kind of break these numbers down with you if that was something you would certainly be interested in time. So outside of all of that, I am now going to open up for any types of questions. I'm sorry if you were asking them during my presentation there, but please go ahead and ask away. And if not, then I can pass this back to Andrew. Thanks again, Andrew, for putting all of this on. And I will look forward to hopefully seeing a bunch of you at CBC. Andrew, I know I'll be seeing you there. And yeah, we'll talk again soon. Thanks, everybody.